Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. So as you know, I have had the honor to do an interview with Mr. Codestrap himself. And my purpose with that interview was that I wanted to help retail investors understand what Palantir does and clear up how Foundry works and what benefits it has for customers and businesses. And Codestrap was someone who has extensive knowledge in the software sphere. He is using Palantir himself. He is just a great guy to talk to. And the interview was 1 hour and 20 minutes, even though he gave me 30 minutes to talk to him. So he was very gracious with his time. And I ended up breaking up this interview into 5 easily consumable segments because I'm not sure many of you can watch 1 hour and 20 minutes and I don't have the capacity to edit so much at the same time. So I'm releasing them as I'm editing them daily. And this segment is going to tackle the question if Palantir can become the operating system of the West and can become what we build the future companies on. Very interesting video. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't. Check out the Patreon link, which is the first link in the description below, and make sure you enjoy the video. And then another question. So let's say that we had all these SaaS products, right? Like we had the chatbot, we had Zapier, that's a SaaS product. We had Kajabi. Yep. And would we have to pay for Palantir to collect all the data so that we can analyze it and on top of it pay for all the SaaS products? Or is there a way that Palantir becomes like a data operating system and then it replaces, like we're somehow able to replace the chatbot and write it somehow on top of Foundry?
So yeah, I think, so let's get into, this is more the last mile piece of your question. It's like, how do I build data apps that just run on top of my data warehouse? I don't need to go purchase 50 SaaS products. I can just use a platform theoretically and build my own or have them delivered on top of the platform. And yeah, so it doesn't have, it has a chat component in Gotham. I don't believe Foundry has a chat component yet. But chat aside, let's just take all the data stream analytics you're doing. Yes, absolutely. Foundry would replace all of that. All of the analytics tools you were using before would be replaced in Foundry, with the caveat that any intelligence you were trying to leverage within those systems would likely need to be replicated by your team. So if like your tool has a predictive component that says, this looks like a high lifetime value customer, you would need to build your own model to do customer valuation or buy one. And there are actually a lot of off-the-shelf models now you can go out and buy, and they all drop right into Foundry. So like you can drop just about any machine learning component you could think of into Foundry and manage it through their ML platform tools. And then you can incorporate those directly into your analysis, right? So like if you want to incorporate machine learning models into dashboards you're building to do predictive analytics, you can absolutely do all of that. And so, yeah, you can, and you don't need to be an engineer to use the no-code tools that let you build the dashboards or build applications that do stuff like alert you if you have a lead that looks good, right? Like you could build that with proper training in Workshop, which is a tool that's like a low-code, no-code application tool. And you could even incorporate the models if they were pre-built for you and managed in Foundry by your data engineering team, or by acquiring them and then bringing them into Foundry. You could then incorporate them. And that's all done via their low-code, no-code tools. And it's really cool, actually, how they pull that off. But they are operating from a premise that they want to empower people like you and not necessarily engineers. They want to empower both. I guess would be a better way to look at it, is that we want a platform that equally empowers the business owner as much as it's going to empower the software engineer. And that's how they designed it. So yes, you would absolutely be able to replace a lot of those other offerings. And that's why I've been so bullish on the company in a lot of ways, is that there is this notion that data apps, which is what we're kind of referring to in the industry, are going to be run on the data warehouse moving forward. And that's actually the future of SaaS. So like today, how SaaS runs is you build it on a cloud typically, and then your customers integrate with it via REST APIs and via your UI you build and deliver to them over the internet, right, over the web, access, or an app for your phone. That's like SaaS 1.0. The problem with that model is that like this creates a huge management overhead. Like trying to manage 70% of an organization's software now is SaaS. It's under that model. Trying to manage that's tough. Like we run through a lot of hoops at my company trying to manage all these platforms, make sure they're compliant with security, make sure people are onboarded and offboarded through single sign-on, like say Okta. There are huge problems there. And then the contract negotiations every damn year. It's like it's just this constant rolling effort of bullshit you have to deal with. Then there's the technical challenge, which is like all these products also create data silos of data that I now need to come and bring back into my organization. And like to do that, I have to pay them more money than what I'm paying them just to use the service. I got to buy an enterprise license or a BI connector or some other bullshit
And the
product
data is
offering.
yours to begin with.
And the data's mine. Like, what the fuck? You know, like you're holding my data hostage. I'm paying you and like more than double the price I paid you last year just to bring my data back. Like, what is this? So they know, these SaaS companies know what they're doing. But it creates a real problem for organizations that want to do what you wanted to do. And I think you've probably felt some of that pain. And so,
Definitely.
yeah.
It's like in one app we had the names, the email addresses of the customer, and then they went over another app where they were doing like an online product, and then what they were doing in the online product was not connected to the names and addresses. So it was impossible to find who is the good customers, what's the lifetime value, how much are they buying, and it was through several different SaaS products. So
this is real.
It's a very real problem.
It's
yeah,
like,
the pain
it's
is
real at
real.
every size company you go to. Now imagine your company XYZ and you're $50 billion company and you've got like 30,000 employees. Like imagine how big that problem is. Like it's insane. It's almost unmanageable. So anyway, the concept is like, why don't we just build a platform that has all of the capabilities you need of a data warehouse, a database, graph databases, all the stuff, and then build like a software engineering platform on top of that and deliver all the software through that. Bring the software to the data as opposed to bringing the data to all of the software, you know. And that's what data apps are. And like Andreessen Horowitz, which is a huge VC firm, they were talking about this like over a year ago. It's kind of been a known trend. But the people who knew it first, I believe, was Palantir. You know, that was a unique insight that they had and continue to have. And they're the only ones who are going to get digital transformation right as a result, in my opinion, because like if you try it, there's this ongoing debate in the ERP space about like, should we go out and acquire like best of breed SaaS products, or should we try to stick with monolithic ERPs? And a lot of it centers around like, how do you get the data and analyze it? And, you know, but the trade-offs they're making are between like quality and performance and data, you know, ease of access to the data and integration. But Palantir solves it all. You know, like it's going to give you everything. It's going to give you best of breed SaaS products on top of your data warehouse. It's going to provide all the security and governance and everything.
Question here. So if I understand it correctly, so if you're a big company, because Palantir is not a cheap product, then you're an idiot if you're not thinking about digital transformation. And then as far as I understood, you can do it yourself. So you can try to hire IT guys, and then, you know, you can come up with your own system, but it will probably cost you in the tune of, I don't know, $1 billion, and you have like a 90% failure rate.
Yeah,
and
pretty
it takes
much.
It would take you, I don't know, 2 years. And then in 2 years, you wasted 2 years, your competition goes way past you, and you have to begin again. So instead, you can choose to buy Foundry. And as far as I understand from Carp, you can start getting value from it within hours of being installed. And let's say it costs
I can confirm that, by the way. Yeah, I was getting value out of it within minutes of sitting down to use the platform. So yeah, it's like instant.
That is really nuts, because for example, the StreamYard app that we have here that we're doing this interview on, when I bought it, it took me many hours to, you know, get it up and running. And this is a very simple, you know, app. So
it was funny that the people at Palantir that I work with were like, dude, you're like a power user on day one. I'm like, well, the freaking software is that easy to use. Like if you're any way technical, like you just sit down and it feels natural, like the user experience. It's just like an iPhone, you know, like did you need hours of training on an iPhone to get value out of it? No, you fucking get value out of the minute you sit down with it, because it's that easy and intuitive. And that's how I feel about Foundry, is like, from my perspective, not every developer is going to confirm that. I bet you a lot of data engineers would disagree with that because they're used to a way of working. But like someone like me who's more dealing with the software engineering side, the delivery of actual functional applications to people, like for me, it just feels native. Everything they did was very intuitive. I can sit down, I can know how to use it. I barely read the documentation. I only read the documentation like around certain APIs. But yeah, I can confirm that. Anyway, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I did want to confirm.
Yeah, no problem. So then your choice is to, let's say, buy Palantir for $10 million a year, which is way cheaper than you trying to do it yourself. So again, it becomes this almost grandfather offer that you're an idiot for not. So if you're a big company, you're an idiot if you're not thinking about digital transformation. And then you're almost an idiot for not trying Palantir Foundry because it's so much safer for you. And then my question is that then, because I heard this a lot, that Palantir
Let
is,
me give you the count. There is, before we move on from that point,
yeah,
there's
yeah,
going to be people that will see this interview that probably work in the digital transformation space. And I think the first thing they would say is like, that's a problem in search of a solution. Like, first, you need to know what the customer's problems are, and then you go and you narrowly tailor a solution to meet their immediate problems. And Palantir is the opposite of that. Palantir is not narrowly tailoring a gradual rollout of a transformation. It's going to be a fire hose, and you're going to be drinking from a fire hose, right? So that'll be the counter argument that people are going to make typically in the ERP space, the consulting space. The counter to that is like, no, that's kind of, you need to drink from the fire hose, because the failure rate of all these other initiatives who slow walk this thing is like 90%, because it's super complicated. The change management problem is the hardest component, and the organization almost always succumbs to gravity after year two.
So if I understand it correctly, let's say that we are a aerospace company, and then we know that we have one problem with, let's say that it's very hard to trace the component suppliers. So then let's say that some engineer can come in and say that let's buy Snowflake because they have a cheap exact solution for that. And then I don't exactly know how Snowflake works, but let's say it's Snowflake, and then Snowflake keeps upselling them on, oh, by the way, we can also handle this problem and this problem and this problem, but it's a standardized solution. And Palantir would come to them and say, like, okay, guys, we understand you have that problem, but we can make all the data problem in your company better, and you can buy us, but it's a significantly bigger investment with a significantly better result. And then some companies choose the cheaper, easier alternative, but then they have a very high chance of failing. Do I understand it correctly?
I think that's a good approach, but I think the reasons, it's not just a cost initiative. There's a lot of philosophy that goes behind that decision. Both at the corporate level, like the makeup of the board, the makeup of the executive team, and then also the consultants. And we're talking about large organizations here. I'm not talking about like a small company. Just focusing on the large company. The makeup of their IT teams. There's a lot of internal chatter, and then their consultants who are working with them. So like they're going to get the philosophical approach that I'm talking about, where people are like, no, we need to take a customer-driven approach. We need to solve small problems, be agile, and iterate towards digital transformation. Let's not adopt a holistic, invasive platform. And it puts too much, and they'll make arguments about like, it'll put too much dependency on one company. It'll vendor lock our software. These are the type of arguments that they're going to be making against it. And it's not a cost problem necessarily, because you still spend a lot of money with Snowflake. Like, Snowflake is one little component of the digital transformation process, although they're trying to expand. But you're still going to spend the same amount you're spending on Foundry that you're spending on Snowflake. You're just getting data processing, and like maybe a couple other features in the ML space. So like there are a lot of companies with multi-million-dollar spends on Snowflake. So, and maybe it's not exactly one for one, but like you're still in the like 6, 7, you're still in the 7 or 8 figure range with Snowflake, typically, at least the 7 figure range. But anyway, the arguments come down to more about these things about like, well, do we want to be vendor locked to a single system? And like, if we start building software this way, we can't port it over. Now, there's nuance in there. There's a lot of things that are absolutely portable out of Foundry. And this is where all of the interesting arguments happen when you're talking about these kind of acquisition processes, which is like, no, you can actually migrate your data pipelines. We do have a pathway for that. No, you can migrate the TypeScript. You would have to replace the ontology APIs with your own APIs. But like there are interesting arguments to be had within the vendor lock discussion within why would we want to take a holistic invasive approach over a slow walk distributed systems approach. And the arguments, like I always tell people, is like, your likelihood of failure is almost guaranteed if you don't do this as a holistic offering because of the change management problem. And you need to do it now as opposed to let's do this 5 years from now. And yeah, a lot of people your company may quit, and a lot of people may get pissed, but that's part of the change management process, right? It's like that's going to be part of your journey. But the good news is we're going to get this done in 6 months, not 6 years. And you're going to be in a better place as a result. And then the arguments over vendor locking and whatnot, to me, kind of go away, because I'll often point out to people, like when I look at these kind of systems, like, well, you're vendor locked to yourself right now. Does that feel good? Do you like being vendor locked to your IT team? Does your IT team have the same growth rate and customer support as Palantir? Right? Like no, motherfucker, you're vendor locked to your own fucking people over here.
It's like whatever you do, you are dependent on someone.
Yes, exactly. I'd rather be dependent on this company over here because I trust them explicitly to deliver quality.
Yeah.
So like, Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting. And if I look at the competition for Palantir, so is this the main differentiating thing, that Palantir is the only one that can deliver a holistic approach, and the Databricks and Snowflake and all the other companies, they're handling standardized small problems, and they keep on upselling the customers towards a holistic solution?
The arguments will be made that probably in the ERP space that Salesforce could maybe be an option for a lot of companies, as a holistic platform offering and a platform you could build software on top of. I think there's other arguments to be made about different ERP suites and ERP providers as to an alternative, and because ERP systems are a lot like that. They have their own plugin architecture. There's gazillions of plugin offerings offered by third parties. They are a platform for building software. They're just shitty platforms, in my opinion. It's but they're not cloud native. They had to be rebuilt from the ground up to become cloud native, which is leading to a degradation of quality and stability, according to different experts in the field. People want to debate that, but from what I can see, that seems to be the industry consensus. So I think that you could make arguments there are alternatives as platforms. So if I want a digital transformation platform, I could look at some of these other offerings. In particular, Salesforce is interesting. So I don't think they're the only game in town. I think that they're the only one that actually delivers the value without a ton of work and a multi-year transformation step. And also just the offerings are way better. Like when I think about the things that are in Foundry versus the things that are in those other platforms, like Foundry is solving problems that you didn't know you were going to encounter along that digital transformation journey. They've already thought about how to fill in all those gaps for you. Whereas like some of these other platforms leave blind spots open for the organization to like stub its toe as it's trying to roll this thing out. And sometimes that can be catastrophic to the success of that initiative. So yeah, I think there's alternatives people can make a case for, but I don't believe any of them ultimately, if you're fair in your analysis, are gonna be anywhere close to Foundry, in my opinion.
Okay. So in super simple language, so Palantir is a data analytics platform. They help you with the digital transformation.
No, they are a digital transformation platform. They are not a data analytics platform. I hate when people call them a data analytics company. That's
okay. Yeah. So they're a digital transformation platform, and they are for quite big companies. And the value, like if you have them, the value that you get as a company is you will be able to, basically,
they're only for big companies because of their sales strategy. They actually are extremely valuable. So as a day zero startup platform, it's more valuable than a digital transformation platform. Like as a day zero startup platform, holy crap, this thing is revolutionary. Like,
my God.
Yeah.
And it's funny because Karp even said in this last interview that I saw with him that like his mission in life is to, like make people more productive and make businesses more productive. So it's really 100%. Weird that
he delivered on that mission. I mean, my God, that's why I keep getting so mad at the go-to-market strategy, because I'm like, this thing could propel the American economy forward like overnight, in my opinion. Like it could really solve real world economic problems for this country. It could empower a whole group of people, right, who would be 10 times more relevant to the organization overnight, right? We wouldn't be going around trying to chase software engineers all day. Like, I don't want to bag. I am a software engineer, right? It's like I write code every day. But what's the problem with that is that it's a bottleneck. There's only so many data engineers. There's only so many damn software engineers, right? And not everyone is going to want to write code or can even do it. But how do we empower non-technical people? Because that bottleneck, that's the thing that stops data-driven decision making.
This is so real to me, because in the startup that we did, when we first started working with Zapier, that we did so much iterations. Whenever we had data, we changed something immediately. And for example, to find someone who knows how to use Zapier, I think when we were looking on Upwork.com, it was like $300 an hour. And even to make a small change, I needed to, find someone, and it was days, right? And then I ended up watching YouTube videos on how to do it, and I ended up being able to do it myself. And then it went from, us having to pay $300 every time we wanted to change something and having to wait 4 days. We went to, me being able to do a change in 5 minutes, and then we could spend 2 days, see if, it was better, and then I could change it again. And it saved like unbelievable money and time.
Yep.
In this, so it's very real that you need software engineers, but if there are simple problems that normal people can handle, it's way better for the organization.
Exactly. And the thing is with data-driven decision making is the software engineer can't make the decision. They're not the end user of that system,
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so you are in a situation in which the bottleneck is very real, and even if you have software engineers, that's not the right solution. The right solution is to empower the person who needs to make the decision in some way.
Yeah.
And so that's how Palantir approaches that problem.